Harry thought he was leaving behind his Playboy past to find true love, but what if that search made him the perfect target for manipulation? In this video, I'll break down Meghan's shifting stories, her little power plays, and Harry's deepest vulnerabilities. You'll want to stick around till the end because I'll also share practical tips and tricks you can use to protect yourself from manipulation in dating. But before we begin, here's the intro. Welcome to Revealing the Narc. Join me as I highlight narcissistic traits in celebrities and public figures. Everything here is in my opinion and not professional advice. If you enjoy the analysis, please like and subscribe. All of this started with this article that was published in the Daily Mail. The article is titled Inside Harry's Quest for Love and the Blind Date That Led to Meghan Markle. The prince was looking for a wife before meeting and knew she was the one immediately, according to royal author. Looking to leave his Playboy reputation behind, Prince Harry was on a quest for love when a mutual friend set him up on a blind date. Let's pause here. When the article says Harry wanted to leave this Playboy reputation behind, it actually tells us a lot about his state of mind. Anytime you're trying to reinvent yourself, you're already in a delicate place. He didn't just want a girlfriend. He wanted someone who could help him rewrite the story of who he was. That makes you more likely to rush in, overlook red flags, or even put too much pressure on one relationship to prove that you've changed. And here's the thing, when you're desperate to be seen differently, the person who shows up and says, "I see the real you, I'll give you what no one else has," suddenly has a lot of power. It can feel intoxicating, but it's also dangerous. You stop asking, is this person truly right for me? And instead start thinking, they're the one who will rescue me from my old image. We also know from Harry's perspective that he was coming from years of public judgment and scrutiny. If you've ever felt misunderstood or compared to anyone else, you know how strong the pull is toward the first person who offers unconditional loyalty or a sense of escape. The stakes become huge. You're not just dating, you're rewriting your life. And in that high pressure mindset, it's easy to confuse urgency with destiny. So, how do you know if you might be in a vulnerable place? If you're entering a relationship because you want to prove something to your family, your ex, or even to yourself, that's a sign. If you feel like this relationship is your chance to reinvent your identity, you may be giving it more symbolic weight than it could hold. And if you catch yourself ignoring things that bother you because you're so focused on the story of how this relationship redeems you, that's when you need to pause. Love that grows from strength looks different than love that's carrying the weight of your whole identity. Let's continue the article. It says, despite his status as the most eligible bachelor in the country, the prince's love life included a series of failed relationships with an array of heiresses, airheads, and aristocrats. I just really want to stop right here and say, I don't like the airheads word. According to royal author Christopher Anderson, it was Michelle Obama who half-kiddingly asked Harry when he was planning to settle down, a topic she had brought up before. Let's pause here. We know that Meghan allegedly did a lot of research before she met Prince Harry. And when I was reading this article, I thought to myself, is it possible that this statement that Harry made to Michelle Obama was this public knowledge? I started that search online and I couldn't find any public information of Harry saying that. I then asked myself, between 2015 and 2016, when did Harry and Michelle Obama meet? And I think this time period is important because allegedly Harry and Meghan met in July 2016. We've also seen Meghan cosplay Michelle Obama, so I would think that Meghan would be keeping an eye out on the news regarding her actions. Before we get into that, let's look at another small excerpt from this article. It says, Anderson wrote in his 2021 book, Brothers and Wives, that the prince, with a new and unfamiliar sense of worth, maturity, and calm, sounded serious. Just have to find the right person, he told Michelle with a smile. So between 2015 and 2016, I found 3 appearances that cite that Harry and Michelle Obama had met. The first one is June 16, 2015, and it's reported that they have tea together at Kensington Palace in London, discussing topics like the Let Girls Learn initiative and veteran support. The next one is October 28, 2015. Harry and Michelle Obama meet in the US to launch and support the 2016 Invictus Games and highlight veteran recovery programs. I wanted to emphasize here that if you were following Prince Harry, you could tell that he was interested in projects involving veterans. This is important because in the winter of 2014, Meghan actually toured 5 or 6 American bases through the USO organization. And it's interesting because she hasn't really advocated for the military since then. I mean, other than her involvement in Invictus, but we've all seen how she has actually turned that into a runway. And the final one that I found, and this one is so cute, happened in April 22, 2016. The Obamas visited William, Catherine, and Harry for a private dinner, and Prince George famously greeted them in his bathrobe. So cute. Media reports say the evening was warm and informal, covering topics like charity work, the Invictus Games, and family. Based on everything we've seen, I feel like this is the event or the gathering where Michelle asked about Harry's love life. This article says that Prince George embarrassed Prince Harry in front of the Obamas. It says little Prince George may just be a 2-year-old, but the little tyke certainly doesn't miss a trick. In a candid 2-on-1 interview in which the U.S. First Lady, Michelle Obama, and Prince Harry sat down with ABC News, the wife of President Obama let slip one very adorable detail about their visit with the royal family, and I'll show you that clip in a minute. Turns out the usually mischievous prince was putting on a display of his absolute best behavior, but that was before his equally cheeky nephew gave him away. I have to say, the most precious thing, if you haven't already fallen in love with him, is to see him with his nephew, said Michelle of Harry, who sat red-faced next to her. Here is that adorable picture of Prince George in his bathrobe. Oh my, so sweet. So, so sweet. And here is that clip from Good Morning America where Michelle Obama mentions that. I did modify the voices in this video so that it doesn't get flagged, but if it does get flagged, the next few moments might be missing, and I hope it's not.
And I have to say that the most precious thing, if you haven't already fallen in love with him, is to see him with his nephew. Because all throughout he was like, Uncle Harry, why are you so quiet?
So embarrassing.
Why are you so quiet? And I was like, what? You're not quiet.
And I was there to best behaviour.
You were, and he didn't understand what is wrong with you.
Well,
He
normally
started,
they're throwing him out of the room and stuff, so...
He's got a pretty good uncle. Oh.
All right, so now that you've seen that clip, if Meghan saw that clip, what are some things that she could deduce from it? It's that Harry has a soft spot for veterans. He lights up when talking about Invictus and military families. This isn't just a cause. It's tied to his identity and sense of purpose, and that reveals an emotional core she could align with. He's a playful, loving uncle. Stories with Prince George show his warmth with kids. It hints at a deeper longing to be a father himself and an easy way for someone to future fake around family life. It indicates that he can be quiet and self-conscious. He admitted being embarrassed when George teased him for being quiet in front of the Obamas. That shows that he worries about how he comes across and gets flustered easily in high-status company. And finally, he craves validation. Harry admitted feeling embarrassed when George teased him, and I think that shows he's sensitive about how admired figures see him. Praise or reassurance carries extra weight, making him especially responsive to those who affirm him. The article continues, in May 2016, Harry was at a birthday party with TV personality Denise Van Outen, sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly, when he said, according to the author, I want to find a wife. 2 months later, British fashion designer Misha Nonu asked Harry if he'd be interested in going on a blind date with a friend of hers, Meghan Markle. So this is the story that we had heard in 2016 and 2017, and we're going to dive deep into this because at another moment in this very same article, it says Meghan said that their mutual friend Violet von Westenholz told her that Prince had asked about her, suggesting that she meet up with Harry. The next day, they exchanged numbers. The pair began texting and eventually set up a first date at Soho House while Meghan was in the city to watch the Wimbledon tournament. What I do want to point out is that Meghan was running in the same circles as Harry. And Harry wasn't shy of hiding that he was looking for someone. He expressed it publicly, and I think that these words could have made it to Meghan. Just to recap, that first version, through Misha Nonu was in 2016, 2017. That was the story they would tell. And then this later version with Violet, it flips the script. And this is what we heard on or in the Netflix mockumentary. The article continues and said, I had never even heard about her until this friend said Meghan Markle. I was like, right, okay, give me a bit of background. Anderson added, somewhat disingenuously, Meghan would claim later that she was just as unfamiliar with the prince. The only thing I had asked her when she said she wanted to set us up was, is he nice? If he wasn't kind, it didn't seem like it would make sense. I'm going to show you two clips now of the flip-flop in stories. The first one is from the engagement interview in 2017, and the second one is in 2022, the Netflix mockumentary.
I didn't know much about him, and so the only thing that I had asked her when she said she wanted to set us up was, I had one question. I said, well, is he nice? Because if he wasn't kind, it didn't seem like it would make sense.
Who was a friend, had this video of the two of them, it was like a Snapchat.
Oh gosh, just that whole thing. It started like
With
dog ears.
dog ears. And
That's what he saw of me.
that was the first thing. I was like, who is that?
This is ridiculous. And then she sent me an email saying, I know you said you're single, and a friend of mine asked about you, and maybe you'd like to meet him. And I said, who is it? And she said, it's Prince Has. And I said, who's that?
So what are some key takeaways? The first one is that we see a narrative shift for image management, and I really want to dig deep into this. We have phase one of the story where Meghan was introduced through Misha Nonu. And I think this story was said for legitimacy. And let me explain that. It connected Meghan to Harry's Soho House elite circle, making her look socially vetted. It's trying to show that she wasn't chasing a prince. And then we have phase two, the Violet story. And at this point, the engagement interview had happened, and the story was already out there that Harry had no idea who Meghan was. So the dynamic was completely flipped in the Violet story because Harry becomes the pursuer and Meghan is the prize. It recasts the story as organic and romantic and not engineered through social climbing. And it protects Meghan's image from accusations of scheming. She appears innocent and even hesitant. I'm curious to know, do you all see this as well? The two other key takeaways here are this control of the pursuer-pursued role. So we see that this role was flipped in the Netflix version. For someone who's image conscious, being chosen rather than chasing helps protect against criticism and builds a more flattering story. And a third takeaway is watch for discrepancies. When someone's story keeps changing, especially about something as simple as how they met, it's often less about memory and more about managing perception. This is a red flag in any relationship. If someone needs to reframe the past to maintain their image, it's a sign of manipulation. The article continues, eagerly recalling their love story. Meghan revealed in part 2 of her Netflix series with Love Meghan that it was Harry who uttered the 3 special words, I love you, first, shortly after they began dating in 2016. Let's watch that clip.
Yeah.
Did you tell him first or did he tell you?
He told me.
Oh, that's nice. That's really
This exchange does not sit well with me. Love isn't supposed to be a game you win. When saying I love you turns into a competition about who got there first, it makes intimacy transactional. It's not about connection, it's about control, about holding the emotional upper hand. What I also found interesting about this particular episode is that Meghan really emphasized that this was her first time meeting 10 friends. Here's a montage where she's emphasizing that.
We are grabbing some books for my new friend Tan, who's coming. So Tan will be here tomorrow, and I'm so excited. I love making new friends. I also love making new parent friends. Oh my God, it's so nice to meet you.
So that was really interesting to me because look what I found from Well Child 2019. This is an event that definitely Harry and Meghan were there. They were actually sitting in the front, and I would imagine that they met. However, I couldn't find any pictures of them together. I couldn't find video of them together, so it could be that Meghan's version is true. I just find it quite a big coincidence, which reminds me of a Seinfeld episode Oh my goodness, I should clip that and include that in the video here. That there's no such thing as big coincidence and small coincidences, that it is a coincidence. Let me know in the comments how you feel about that. Okay, so let's summarize from this video what we've seen from Meghan. We've seen shifting stories, so there's different versions of how they met. And these changes over time often signal image management. And I think we can say that the changing of the story, who does it benefit more? Meghan, right? She becomes the one that's pursued and the one that's the challenge to get. We see controlling of the narrative because of the flipping of this script. We see that she tries to use power in small moments, turning I love you into a competition. And there's red flags in these inconsistencies. When details don't stay consistent, it's less about memory slips and more about shaping how the story is received. The bottom line is just the examples we've talked about so far show that Meghan has a manipulative nature, allegedly. Now I want to go back to Harry's disposition around the time that he met Meghan. It was reported in March of 2015 that Harry needs a new job and that his military career was about to end. And this is important because what we're seeing is a man who doesn't know what direction he will go. Just this action of coming out of the military leaves Harry vulnerable. And it does for a number of reasons. The first one being he's searching for a new mission. He's looking for something or someone to give his life meaning again. He's craving belonging. A partner offering unconditional loyalty and intimacy could feel like the band of brothers bond that he lost. It would make him vulnerable to future faking. Talk of family, children, and changing the world together would land deeply because it offered him a new role to step into. And there's validation hunger. We've all heard that Harry may not have been the most professional soldier, allegedly, the most hardworking soldier, allegedly, but being part of the military gave him credibility. When that was gone, he was left exposed and much more receptive to praise, admiration, or the idea of a partner who could help him prove he was more than just the spare. Combining all of this together shows us Harry's state. The beginning of the article mentions that he wanted to leave his Playboy image behind, so he's having an identity shift. There's a life transition happening here as a result of him leaving the military and losing structure, purpose, and the credibility that came with service. We know that he had a longing for family, and we see that with the reports of him being the playful uncle. He was self-conscious because we saw that he was embarrassed about being quiet in front of the Obamas, showing that he's sensitive about how others perceive him. And he has a need for reassurance. He's strongly affected by praise from admired figures, making external validation especially powerful. Let's turn everything that we've seen here into something practical. I'm going to give you a couple of questions you can ask yourself to find out if you're vulnerable to manipulation in love. Am I going through a major transition? Job loss, a move, a breakup, leaving school or the military? Am I hoping a relationship will prove I've changed or help me escape an old reputation? Am I longing for kids, marriage, or stability so strongly that I might rush into it? Am I overly sensitive to how others see me, making me always question if I look good enough? Do I thrive on praise and reassurance so much that I ignore red flags if someone flatters me? And finally, am I more focused on how fast this relationship is moving than whether we're truly a match? These are the same kinds of vulnerabilities that we saw with Harry, but they apply to all of us. If you recognize yourself in more than one of these, it's worth slowing down because urgency and longing can make us blind to manipulation. And here are 3 tips to avoid manipulation in dating. Know your vulnerabilities. Be honest with yourself. Are you lonely, eager to settle down, or reinventing yourself? Awareness is your first line of defense. Number 2, slow down the timeline. Manipulators push urgency. There's fast I love yous and rushing commitment. If someone's right for you, slowing down won't scare them away. And finally, test words against actions. Don't get swept away by sweet talk. Ask, does this person's behavior actually match their promises? Consistency is key. And I'm going to give you a bonus fourth one, and I think this one is so important. Guard your stories. Don't reveal all your dreams, fears, and goals too quickly. Manipulators use that information to future fake, mirroring what you want until you're hooked. So if we take Harry and Meghan, for example, Meghan could have easily taken any information that he gave her, such as him leaving the military, his love of the military, his love of Africa, and future fake. But I know this is all great and dandy, but how do you do that practically? Because after all, you are trying to get to know someone. When someone you're dating asks deep questions early on, you don't have to shut it down, but you also don't need to hand over your whole emotional roadmap. Keep your answers light and neutral, then flip the question back to them so the conversation stays balanced. Think of sharing like peeling an onion, one layer at a time as trust builds. And if something feels too personal too soon, it's okay to say, I'd rather share that when we know each other better. A healthy person will respect your pace, a manipulator will try to push past it. So I'm curious to know what you all think about this. Please drop your thoughts in the comments. If this was interesting to you, please like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you'll know every time I drop a new video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you're looking for a meaningful way to support something beyond the screen, I'd love for you to consider making a donation to the National Domestic Violence Hotline in lieu of super chats and super stickers. They provide 24/7 support and resources for people in unsafe or overwhelming situations, whether that's emotional, physical, or just hard to name. Their information is on the screen should you need to contact them, and you'll find the link to donate in the description of this video. Every little bit helps, and it means a lot. Thank you again for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.